In this video from We Are Racing.
So, what is we doing, Uncle Sir?
Well, we just received this Mazda MX-5. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In the last video we promised you a rolling chassis, and we're certainly going to do our best to work towards that, keeping in mind that a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. Brendan is studying for matric final exams, so I'm managing my own camera and my own lighting. I have to carry my own tools, which really sucks, but it is what it is. He does try and help out whenever he sort of can, and it's a nice incentive for him as well. But let's see how far we actually get with this video. In order to get a rolling chassis, we have to start with the suspension. And with that, we're going to get straight onto the front suspension. That does seem to be the most complicated. Let's see how far we get. Join us for this journey.
A few minutes later.
For this little exercise to start mounting the suspension, we had to get our frame dead on level with the ground, which when you don't have level ground to start with is quite a bit of a mission. And then of course when we place this okay over there, it's level yet again. So this guy is level, basically in the middle of this setup over here, flush with the front. And then if we bring a straight edge across here, the front of it here is about 3 millimeters in between the top of that edge and the bottom of the lobe over here. That's according to the book that we've got. So we're going to tack weld this guy in here and move on to the rest.
A lot of boring math later.
This is going to be fun to try and show you with one-handed camera. So we've got that guy roughly in the middle over there. I'm going to show you that. That guy roughly in the middle over there. So we've got the placement of the bracket correct. And to make sure that it's going to line up, we employed this piece of round bar, which is very straight. And we've got that lined up through all the holes to make sure that they're in a line. And now we're going to mark this thing out, do a little bit of grinding to get a clean surface to weld on, and tack weld that in place. And then we basically have our bottom for this side. And then we can go and rinse and repeat for the other side. The other thing that I almost forgot to show you, we wanted to make sure that this guy is serviceable. So in other words, you can get a wrench into here and a wrench into the back, so that if you do need to take these things off or adjust them or do anything to them, you can actually get to the stuff. I think that's fairly important.
Later.
Okay, with these brackets tack welded onto here, we were now able to install the lower arm of the front suspension, and it fits absolutely perfectly. So we're very happy with the fitment over here. What's nice about these is that you can actually put spacers in the form of washers in here to get some adjustment forward and backwards, but that's obviously not, I can't imagine why you would use that, but it is available and there is space for them. So rinse and repeat for the other side. Let's do that, and we're not going to bore you with the details on that, to get the other bottom on, which will then allow us to determine the height of the upper control arm bracket over here. Meanwhile, our diff arrived back, the refurbished diff. So history on this guy, we bought this limited slip diff and it was frozen in place by rust. So we had it refurbished. In the meantime, we also got another unit from Murray and that one had a better gear ratio. So we took the two diffs to our local diff specialist, and they built us this one out of all the best parts. I say best parts, there was really nothing wrong with it aside from the bearings being seized from rust and sitting without oil for a long time. So, but now we have a fully working diff. You'll note that we didn't install the little side shaft thingies because we haven't yet decided if we're going to pop our drive shafts directly into that or not. We'll have to fit them up to see if they're going to fit like that or not. Maybe we'll get that thing installed also in between now and the next update, and then we can see how that fits too.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
And just to realize that the diff doesn't actually fit here with that piece in the way, and it needs to be cut off like this one. So that's where the original, well, one of the original mounts came onto the diff, and this is what it looks like modified. So yeah, I think it's going to be grinder and this guy, and see if we can get it close to looking something like that. At least we've got this bit to compare, and if we do mess that up, we've got this one to replace. That was fairly simple. This took all of 5 minutes. This casing is probably aluminium, or as our American friends call it, aluminum, because it's very easy to grind back. In fact, you could have done this just purely with a flap disc. I cut out a notch and then did it with a flap disc, so there's no sharp edges left. Right, let's see if it fits. And diff installed. Top tip, do make sure that these brackets are 100% straight and lined up. The tolerances here are non-existent, so these bolts line up exactly. So if you're off by even a millimeter, 1/1,000,000th of an inch, they're not going to fit. Let's go make some suspension in the front. Almost forgot to show you this. So just that little bit of an angle allows us to clear the frame here. And voila!
And there you have it. I'm back again, but the axles are in, not completely fastened and everything. We still have to open the diff and put the circlips in, but that's for a later stage.
The circlips go over and they just pop in.
Wow, not as difficult as I thought.
Not at all, not at all. Don't have to open the diff. Of course, they act as seals, so you can only fill the diff with oil after they installed permanently. But we will do that only after we're ready to put the wheels on.
Well, at least put the hubs on, because I mean...
The wheels. Remember, all this stuff still needs to be stripped down again.
Oh yeah, that's
because
true.
The frame has to be
powder coated,
sandblasted, whatever. So nothing is installed for permanent. It's just
Touché.
This is a mock-up.
I hear. So, what are we going to do now? Well, at least you mostly.
Two brackets in the front here. Figure out where they go for this bottom arm, and then once we've got that sorted, I'll see if I can entice Brendan, the backless who doesn't put tools away, to mock up two shocks for us where the distance between the eyelids is 360 millimeters. So that will just be a solid piece of steel that we can use to measure here and keep the suspension in place while we do the test fit and while we try and find shocks to purchase.
Sounds good.
Several bad puns later.
So, what is we doing, Uncle Sir?
Well, we just received this Mazda MX-5 motor. It is the 1.6 95 kilowatt version, and the reason we're so interested in this motor, it comes with its own rear-wheel drive gearbox.
Which a lot of the motors we looked at did not. They only came with front-wheel drive. gearboxes.
And then the thing is then you need to buy either a Ford Type 9 gearbox, which is very inexpensive. You can buy a brand new one of those for probably about 9,000 bucks. The problem is that to get a bell housing that then fits the 20 valve motor, which we originally wanted to take, is another 6,000 rand. So that gives you a gearbox at 15,000 rand, albeit brand spanking new.
It's not worth it.
You can get a full motor gearbox combination for that sort of money, and that's just unfortunate reality. So that when this one came up with the motor and the gearbox all in one, and it's not without its problems. The starter seems to be missing, and there's a little pin here that actuates the actual clutch that seems to be missing. But those are I can overcome those. That's not the end of the world. Comes with its shifter, and it seems to be fairly sort of okay in terms of operation. So not unhappy about that. It doesn't have one of those push down things. Comes with all the electronics, and that's quite important as well. This motor comes with its ECU and all of its electronics.
So can you see from this gearbox in what gear it is?
Right now?
Yeah, but I mean not now, but I mean like on a computer. Can you see in which?
No, this is old stuff, eh? This is old technology. It's not brand spanking new. I think when you switch off that camera, I'm going to get Brendan to clean the gearbox.
I am Brendan.
I know. Talking to you in the third person.
Aha!
And then get them to clean this gearbox and just vacuum it at least. And then before the weekend we will see if we can find a starter, and
by big chance maybe even mock up it and see if we can make mounts for it or stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that can actually come off the engine right now, like both of these can come off.
Aircon.
This is power steering and that's aircon, so both of those can come off because we're not going to use them. It's just completely useless to us. So they can come off, and that makes the motor smaller. We will definitely take the exhaust manifold off in time, on account of it goes too far back. It ends up over here, which puts it too far back in the frame. We want something that sort of more comes either a little bit forward or sort of straight down. We'll have to obviously then figure out these pipes and stuff, but that's the easy bit to do.
That's not now's problem, that's later's problem.
Indeed. Right now, the reason the motor is like this is we're inspecting it to make sure that it's alright to turn. This motor is exceptionally clean. It's been standing for a very long time and it's exceptionally clean. What we've done is we've removed the spark plugs, we've put copious amounts of penetrating fluid inside there, all over this thing, and we need to check that it's got sufficient oil in it, and we're going to let it stand overnight. And then probably tomorrow see if we can swing the motor and turn it, and whether it turns freely. That would be a good indication. And then also tomorrow we'll get the electronics for this motor, which means we will be able to wire up a make-believe oil pressure switch to just see that we get oil pressure. So we'll do that obviously with injectors and stuff disconnected, hence the importance of finding a starter, and obviously bolts to be able to bolt the gearbox back onto the motor with. And for that really to happen, we also need a new throw-up bearing for the clutch. So I think it's time to make a little list.
Send Ben to the spare shops.
Would appear. And this is basically how far we've gotten. I think this is probably going to be a wrap for today's video because it's getting a bit long already. We put the motor in place there to do some basic measurements. This thing's going to fit like a PG windscreen. From the bottom of the sump to the very top part of this motor is 550 millimeters. No idea what that is in inches. The Birkin that we built, from the bottom of the sump to the very top of the motor, 570 millimeters. So it looks like this guy's going to fit without any modification required for the sump, which is going to be a massive plus point. We've taken our fake shocks, these guys over here, and weld them in to see how much of a gap we've got there to get these straight. We're gonna have to make little brackets for that to go in there, but the wheels are now basically at the position that they're supposed to be. We also figured out, and I need your help with this, these TSW mags. It's the first time in my life I've ever seen anything like this. So apparently they fit all PSDs and PCDs, sorry, and I couldn't figure out why. These things move. You can turn them. And obviously you have to then set up to fit your specific PCD. Now the way I've got this set up at the moment, and I wonder if you could see this, the wheel actually bobbles because we put all the changes in the same direction, which I'm pretty sure is the wrong way to do it. But the wheel is on there and we now know that they will fit. So that's a bonus. Insofar as the motor goes, we started by stripping off all the bits over here that we don't need. That is a power steering pump and a air conditioning pump. So we don't need those. Off they come, so that we've got a nice clean motor. The standard manifold looks like it's going to end up here somewhere, which is going to be perfect. If it ends up there, I'm going to be so happy because we'll just take it out and do a shortish exhaust on the side over here. When this motor was removed from its original car, the people who removed it took the wiring harness, chopped it off and pulled out all the stuff. So this is what we're left with, lots and lots of different wires. Brendan has started connecting all the colors for colors, doing some heat wrap. We figured out where most of the stuff plugs into, so we're making fair progress with that. The problem of course is that this consumed all of our time. And before I move on to explain to you what we didn't do, the motor turns really easily. And we've done a couple of probably 2 or 3 revolutions of the entire motor already to make sure that nothing fouls or sounds weird, and it sounds brilliant. And I was very amazed to find fresh oil up on the camshafts, so the oil pump is pumping. Again, I need your help with this. Where on this motor is the oil pressure light thing that tells you that you've got oil pressure? I can't find it. So while we were wasting time, while we were playing with the motor, we didn't yet do the back suspension, so we don't have a proper rolling chassis as promised, although the front bit rolls. Like my wife says, I can use this as a pram or a wheelbarrow, because wheels in front, no wheels at the back. And the major problem with that is some of the drawings that we have shows the engine mount, or the suspension mounts coming on top here. And some of the other drawings that we have shows the suspension mounts on the side over here. My logic tells me I want them on the side because I'm going to gain 10-20 millimeters of suspension wideness over here if I stick them over there. But what we'll probably do is visit not Rudy Andre to go and see how the professionals do it, and then we'll know. You guys obviously already know that the Diff is in, it's a limited slip, it's been reconditioned. Very happy about that. And there's our back suspension sitting over there, also minus shocks. We're still trying to negotiate proper deals for shocks. So that's it. That's going to be the end of this video. Like, share, subscribe. We really appreciate your support. You need to remember, life is too short to drive boring cars. And we will see you in the next video when, hopefully, that's what we're going to aim for. We're going to have some shocks to put into this thing, proper shocks, coilovers. We're going to get the motor mounted. Oh, just one little thing quickly. I wonder if you can see this. There's a piece of metal, and there we sketched out the other side engine mount. So we're going to cut some engine mounts and make that as well. So hopefully in the next video we'll mount the engine, sort out some wiring. Remember that we also bought that Spitronics unit, so I'm going to mail the people from Spitronics and ask them if they don't have a wiring loom for MX-5 1600 Miata motor. which will make my life a hell of a lot easier than battling with the factory ECU that's just wires all over the show, keeping in mind that there's a lot of systems inside the ECU on this guy that we're just not going to use. Yeah, so hopefully next video finished on the suspension, motor installed, and then the video after that we will probably go for starting, and you can see that we're moving along very quickly with this guy. Thanks guys, see you in the next video.